Dear friends, regardless of whatever else anyone thinks of Donald Trump, he showed true grit on Saturday, July the 13th, 2024 in Butler, Pennsylvania. That was his defining John Wayne moment. And on the day after, on Sunday, July 14th, he said in a tweet that he was both ready and able to reunite the United States. I, for my part, applaud him for both his true grit and for that statement. And I sincerely hope that he will use his good relations with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to collaborate with him. But I'll get to that in more detail in a moment. Let me first give you an update on the status of my criminal case and on how this attempt to break me backfired. About a month ago, the court in my criminal case, out of the blue, suddenly and unexpectedly stated that it intended to stop the hearings and announce a decision against me without hearing the defense's witnesses. Up until then, the court had heard the witnesses of the prosecution, and it had gone halfway through its own list of witnesses. At that point, the prosecution's case had collapsed. The witness's testimony coincides with the content of the case file, even though this case file is absolutely incomplete. In my case, the prosecution is withholding much, much more evidence than the prosecution in Alec Baldwin's case. Roughly 60 to 90 telephone conversations are not documented anywhere. Plus, a bunch of documents are missing in the case. Still, in short, the evidence that came to light so far says, one, yes, there had been a very real and growing danger of the Corona Committee's bank account getting attached, the money therein being seized. Two, yes, I, as the founding director and, of course, face of the Corona Committee, had the power to enter into loan agreements to temporarily protect some of the donation money. And three, I was both ready and able to repay the loan. And four, I would have repaid the loan. I would have done so had the authors of the criminal complaint against me not stolen my money. Precisely at this point in the trial, the court abruptly changed tack and announced that no further hearings were necessary, as it had suddenly come to the conclusion that based on a chat exchange between my former co-host and me, there were no loan contracts. Rather, the presiding judge said, there's only a fiduciary agreement between my former co-host and me, an agreement to transfer the money from one bank account to another and keep it there. Even though no such agreement exists in writing, and even though there had not been an express agreement, not even an express oral agreement to that extent, the court believes that such an agreement had been entered into, judging or gathering this from our actions, an implicit agreement, that is. Well, the fact that even the prosecution had never even attempted to investigate this, but had always argued that there was a loan contract, this makes it even more important for the court to now hear our side of the story and listen to the defense's witnesses so that we can rebut this figment of an imagination running amok. Well, at the very last moment, we managed to stop this brazen attack at the very, very basic ground rules of a fair trial, for now at least. We have managed to fend off this attack on justice and the rule of law, not just because of solid defense work. Rather, the most important reason why our defense work was, thus far at least, successful, and I can't emphasize this enough, is your massive international support, your letters and postcards to me, your vigil outside the prison. You're making sure that as many people as possible are aware of this travesty of justice in Göttingen, the heart of darkness when it comes to democracy and free speech. I'm referring to an article in the New York Times, which is certainly a pillar of the mainstream media. But even the New York Times, as I pointed out in my video, this is over a year ago, on the psychology and psychopathy of the panic mongering that was necessary for the pandemic, even the New York Times article describes Göttingen as a very bleak place, as here is the headquarters of a special police unit that not just scours the internet to find and indict people who are asking questions about the measures, but these people in this special unit also pose as right-wing Nazis and try to get others to respond to their incitement in kind, thereby creating right-wing Nazis, which they can then arrest and indict on charges that, of course, violate free speech. I'm not kidding. Now, I don't need to explain to you that an enormous pressure is exerted on me in order to dehumanize and threaten me so that I will break and go crazy and will no longer be able to defend myself. But as I told you, this is impossible. No one can break me. Sure, if the guards saw me talking to you about the stories you tell me in your letters or laughing at the jokes you're telling me, some might believe that I've gone crazy, but I haven't. I'm only trying to communicate and express my really heartfelt gratitude for your continuing massive human support in a manner they can't control, because there's no other way. I'm trying to do this in a manner they can't control, but that still somehow reaches you. And I believe that my defense work in court shows clearly that it is not I who has lost his marbles. To once more make this clear and unequivocally clear, no one can break me. And this has to do with my grandmother, the mother of my unbreakable mother, who unfortunately suffers from a mix of Alzheimer's and dementia, but still remembers me and waits for me to visit her in the nursing home where she is now living and where my sister visits her every other day. And for that, I thank her. I thank my sister. Now, my grandmother, it was a very interesting character. She died at age 100 in 2008, fit as a fiddle up to the very end. My grandmother always told me over and over and over again, Reiner, you can do and achieve anything you like, but you must never let yourself go. What she meant was, one, take care of your body, wear clean clothes, of course, and two, be someone of integrity. Do not disappoint those who trust you and keep your promises. These are very simple ground rules, but I always found them easy to follow, and they make perfect sense. And that is why no one can ever break me, especially not with all of you keeping me afloat and on higher ground. I will not disappoint my grandmother, Emma. But look, here's the kicker. All of their attacks have not only not achieved their purpose, but they have in fact backfired. Here in prison, almost all of the correction officers who I came in touch with, and that's quite a few, have confirmed to me that there has never been an inmate charged with just a misdemeanor who was held in preliminary custody for 9 months. And never before has there been an inmate charged with just a misdemeanor who was put in chains and guarded by heavily armed police officers who wear bulletproof vests when being transported from prison to court and back. And never before have they seen an inmate charged with just a misdemeanor who is being isolated from all the other inmates and told not to talk to anyone. Now, some of these officers are, as they told me, shaking their heads in disbelief, but sadly, they say they have to follow orders. Now, What gives me hope, I'm not trying to complain here, I'm just explaining, because what gives me hope is that, in fact, what I see is, even here in jail, more and more people are realizing that the emperor does not wear any new clothes, but is standing there naked, stark, raving mad. I was supposed to hear that they were not surprised, this is at least what they told me, that they were not surprised, the guards here, at Joe Biden's catastrophic performance in the TV debate with Donald Trump. Seems like everyone has known this for at least the past 2 years, everyone on our side of the fence. They knew, and they saw all his gaffes and his physical failure. They even realized his very credible paying homage to the character of Colt Seavers from the TV show Fall Guy. So why do his political and media supporters act so surprised now? Is this cognitive dissonance? Is it stupidity? Or do they really believe that the rest of the world is so debilitated that they cannot see that an almost wholly incapacitated puppet is being paraded in front of us? In the now famous TV debate, Donald Trump's reactions, his gestures and his facial expressions, they showed, on the one hand, that he found this funny, but at the same time, I think he looked genuinely shocked at the extent of Joe Biden's condition. At any rate, talking about Joe Biden, there is another presidential candidate, one who has very high approval rates in the alternative media, but gets no coverage in the mainstream media, and that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. There's an excellent TV interview he did with this English language Turkish TV station, which is the only one that has reporters on the ground in Gaza. And he did this about a half a year ago. You can download this interview from their website, trt.world. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump have a good relationship. How about the two of them teaming up? Maybe then finally Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will get the Secret Service protection he should have gotten a long time ago as a presidential candidate. How about if Donald Trump makes Robert F. Kennedy Jr. his Attorney General? I can't think of a better choice. This would guarantee that the pandemic will be investigated and that the perpetrators will be held to account. Remember RFK's book, The Real Anthony Fauci? Well, Fauci would almost certainly go to jail, but so would his counterparts in Germany, France, the UK, Italy, Sweden, Japan, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and so on and so on. And guess what? We, the group of international attorneys, and I have all the evidence. I'm 100% certain that we would, all of us, be more than happy to help. Now, in this totally absurd situation, chaotic craziness, I'll give you two songs. One is called Crazy by Gnarls Barkley, and the other one, that's the positive one, is by Martha and the Vandellas, and it's called Dancing in the Street. So, no fear, we will win. See you all later.